about others. The more you devote yourself to the love and pleasure of others, the more you will open up within yourself, the more you will discover goodness and beauty. The more you will develop pleasant feelings, and for those around you, you will become the uplifting oxygen of the soul. 4:17. It is not at all a problem to rejoice in a new thought, a pleasant feeling, a new inspiration, or even a hypothesis, which, after all, to some extent reflects particles of truth. On the contrary, it is our spiritual fuel. Hermeticism and stigmatization with its own or external dogmas, rules, stiffens us. And this is not pleasant in life. The goal, after all, is pleasure and comfort to do what one wants, without looking at others. Is morality preserved? Of course, joy and happiness in life abolish dogmatism and morality, and all spiritual prudery, seriousness. 4:18. Note, experts on pride are extremely scarce. By imitating the saints, it is necessary to remodel own judgments, and this means that in relation to oneself, it is necessary to learn to be that expert. Intelligence never contradicts love. On the contrary, one without the other cannot exist. Intelligence and beauty together form the heart of the mind, wise and loving. Love and truth, experienced by reason, form an unheard of power and force that animates the immensity of being. And this happens in all harmony and harmony, even though the material universe is bloodthirsty. But remember, harmony is first of all transcendence, spirit. The harmony of the material world is apparent, impermanent, and passing away. So it is necessary to help the world through own progress, patience, and love. The rule for saving the good is this: first you must heal yourself, and then the universe will heal. 4:19. If one of us thinks more about heaven than about life on earth, it does not mean that material wisdom has departed from him. No, we can have our head in the clouds and our hands on technologies, wrench, hammer, scythe, flails, washing machine, refrigerator, computers. The light of the soul does not prevent life on earth, as long as the need to still live here. But this life must end someday, to experience a new form of experiencing own being. Now the fundamental question: what do we expect after death? Is it only peace and quiet, because here we were troubled? Or something much more? 4:20. Earth should teach us how to love under difficult conditions, how to live in harmony with the deity, how to exclude anxiety, the killer of eternal pleasure, from life. Understand that the weakness of this life, which is materialistic in every way, is learning to give up perfection, which is far from spiritual cells, spiritual chemistry and spiritual DNA. Resurrection. 4:21. The power of life flows only from inner and outer delight. Delight is the power, attribute, and meaning of God. But only a good heart gives desires untainted by sadness and resignation. One who is good is a joyful optimist in the face of all situations. Such a person wants to live and flourish even in old age to achieve eternal success. Nevertheless, with the resignation of the shapes and beauty of the young body, it is necessary to fight. Old age erases and resets youth, but these are appearances. Immediately after death, we are sparrows again, beautiful and young. 4:22. By nature, we are eternal explorers of happy lands and seekers of divine adventures. It cannot be otherwise. Actually, it is love in relationship with the interior lovingly discovering us. We desire love, and it says, "Come, take me as much as you want." In this way, we discover ourselves in love, which flirtatiously, airily, comes up to us, to effervesce us, to encourage us. Without desire and telling it that you want it and love it, there is no love, no tasting and enchantment. Love is sensitive like a pupil to light. It responds when we look at its exquisiteness and beauty, when we want it. Love is the life of consciousness, our sweetest inner God. The task of love is to eternally entice us, to play us on the strings of feeling and imagination. In this game, love constantly hooks us and pinches us. Love from its spiritual chamber of flowers, outfits for every occasion, velvet carpets, wonderful palace tapestries, enticing scents, lanterns, wine-full cellars, offers us eternal flirtation. It sounds like a fairy tale. Life is a game, Padre Pio's words. Life and poem. I recognize the power of power with a poem. Not the notation of numbers, not the style, not the spelling, nor the shades of verbosity did not give me understanding. Who knows what the word hides behind? What is it growing up against? And what is its power? Is it possible to heal by speaking? By thinking, you exude strength from words along the pattern of love. Picky word doesn't cure, but simplicity will strengthen you. The learned will teach you to comb your brain with your own power of ambition. The wise will teach you to live in six. The poem and the content are sympathetic to each other. In a poem as in love, the hidden power, the one has met the romance true, who has found the hidden content and feeling in the word. This one understands the poetry of life. 423. A ruler, king, or president who is not familiar with the biography of the poor man of Assisi Francis, and at least a tad lacking in his spirit and personal practice, in his modesty and conscious poverty, should not run for such an office. Rather certain to be an arrogant, bad leader. It's all about example and humility, and not glamour and power. But that doesn't mean he can't have wealth. He can, but with a spiritual approach to things, he will treat it like dust on the road. On earth, this is the way to go. Otherwise, the mind goes crazy. Like the pharaohs or other modern fanatics, wealth for the human mind is usually paralyzing. And it is necessary to pay close attention to this, so as not to be dragged into spiritual paralysis by the struggle for matter. I want my children to never be too rich on earth, and I will make sure of that. The words of Padre Pio. 424. The soul, in order to feel good, not to grieve and not to have a sense of wasted time, needs a frenzy of give and take. Inner beauty is her sense of absolute happiness. In the case of her life on earth, she often does not feel this beauty for various reasons. But in general, as we see from ourselves, we don't know how to share anything but what is dearest and most beautiful to us. 425. Various beauties open unlimited spaces of the soul. Beauty and the vision of noble fairy tale delight embed the soul in exquisite chambers of happiness. Beauty and sensitivity to it cause one to move freely wherever one wants and how one wants. Everything delicate, soft, and pleasant ignites the soul to love and cordiality, making this a small heaven in our cosmic conditions. And what will be in the big sky? Imagination already has its hidden hopes and thinks about it every day. How to get there, preferably already in this lifetime. Desires can do something about it, but it won't be fullness yet. Higher consciousness. From the first glimpse of consciousness, time passes after the brightness of a day. Who exercises the power of happiness? Will the gaze of deepest emotion gesture the sun move to the sign of love? Longing alarms are heard between the shadows. Petals of time gone wrong are blown away by a wind without any meaning. The cosmos flies into your consciousness, and you thank humbly for the dew of distinction. You are to love your property, stroke love through the ear, eye, until you penetrate the walls of secrets. Until you know the right love. You have no doubt, the eyes of the bright sky have been restored to you. We sat down, and in the midst appeared wisdom, carrying a hut without curtains in which the dim sun is burning, which gives you rest, like the fields weave. Thought within and beyond fixed in the feelings of eternity. It is a world of supreme consciousness. 426. The soul by nature is beautiful, joyful, noble. It has a heart as big as a bell. The soul is romantic, even poetic. Life is the poetry of the soul, which knows nothing but how to love. And loving gives her invention, breakthrough, vigor in this world. Well, and the desire to love everything again. And so on and on and on. It's just that these wheels are different every time, interesting with freshness, never tireless in the frenzy of knowing and loving. The body desires similarly, but due to fatigue and lack of physical comfort, it stands apart from the soul. No harm done. Fortunately, the body does not think or feel. Only the soul in the body has these functions. At times we think it is the body that thinks. When we wake up we think, and when we sleep we don't. Because of this we have a few philosophical problems, but this is nothing. The soul can be wonderful in all conditions, even when the body is sleeping and relaxing. The soul does not need sleep because it is eternally active, busy with fun. 427. With life in front of us, considering about it through intuition, feeling, external learning of others and faith and disbelief, we can achieve a partial understanding of the situation in which we have come to exist, live, and play. Why is it necessary for a person to sense and strive to discover reality? Only to understand life more clearly and be able to enjoy it even more. I guess that's the point of knowing and sensing. News, even gossip and joy. A strange relationship. The closer a person gets to the absolute, the more he fools around, laughs at everything, says unbelievable things and dreams of blue almonds. He becomes an unearthly romantic, a madman of transcendence. One must be a divine madman, Padre Pio's words. 428. Everyone touches something all the time so they can live. The basics, we touch the air. However, the eye has the largest area of touch. It sees far and near. It encompasses half the world in 1 second. But even more powerful is the mind. It embraces almost everything it knows, and what it does not yet know. If it doesn't know, it believes it will find out. But Hercules is love. This one already touches completely everything. To everything it smiles, strokes, caresses, and adores. It will transform darkness into light and sadness into joy. Love will turn every energy into a fabulous touch. Love not only touches, but creates touch constantly. In our case, mainly in the heart, the soul, and then also in the body, of course. Regardless, which ones we get in different lives after lives. Love changes everything. Colors, feelings, knowledge, expands the world of imagination, and brings everything into focus. This touch is the most desired by all beings in the universes, because it saves from trouble. 429. If we touch pleasure, then we will understand why it is needed in the human heart. Without it, it is impossible to live. Everyone lives only for pleasure. There is no other purpose in the world. Even nirvana is a pleasure zone. Whatever we do, whether we eat or drink, whether we watch a movie, a game, athletics, whether we train something ourselves, whether we go for walks, whether we think about ourselves or the world, philosophize, or even how we sometimes rebel or work seriously. All this is aimed at contentment and pleasure. Even when we get sick, we think about health so that it gets better and more peaceful. Because the finale of all activities, including scientific work, is wealth, money, so that we can buy something for ourselves with it, such as a house, or go on a trip, etc. To be able to feel relaxation and joy thanks to resources. To be able to feel comfort because of contentment in the soul and body. Either way, life follows to wealth through lack and poverty. The soul feels best only in wealth, however it feels it. It wants to have plenty so it can share. The soul's wealth is extraordinary. It can share even nothing. A simple thought, an observation, playing a melody on a comb, walking on leaves, listening to crickets, looking nature in awe. 430. Self-conscious, self-responsive feeling brings the purpose and sense of life closer. Well-being gives consciousness a desire for destiny, prompts one to prolong own contentment and happiness. When considering a person's potential, one cannot disregard his search for anything to satisfy his heart. Satisfaction is the #1 truth when it comes to philosophical and practical potentials. In developmental psychology, ethics, social science methodology, everything is moving towards solving the problem of not being comfortable and dissatisfied with life, which, however, exists on a daily basis. Otherwise, such sciences would not exist. Always in the first place comes our personality with its various characteristics, expectations, aspirations, and dreams. When explaining the processes of education to ourselves, we encounter a great backlog in this area. The soul and its consciousness still need something in order for it to continue peacefully in life. These gaps are the lack in the mind of the body, a broader understanding of life. And that is why the human mind needs all kinds of education to learn about the possibilities of the world with which it wants to unite and identify. This is a very serious matter, for through scientific analysis we come to the discovery of the personal self. This discovery of the nature of own spirit, through sensory cognition, opens up new horizons for carrying out own life to the other, stronger and more comfortable side of existence. 431. Important. You cannot condition yourself with culture and loyalty to customs. Everyone should observe the world, but create culture based on their philosophy of understanding the soul and the world. The majority, as in a democracy, does not have to feel what you feel. The individual is the most important, for life exists in the individual. Goodness, of which unconditional love is a feature, creates values that give rise to its own need for a way of eternal pleasure. That's why we like to delight in the otherness of others, to feel our own measure. 432. It is not a bagatelle to search for the separate sciences we have learned so far. It's quite an important process of opening the mind. But neither, on the other hand, can we discount the variations of the word coming from other cultures, from other people. There are serious gaps in the knowledge of things, and all things everywhere. Fortunately, by innate intuition, we repel easy adherence to a weak attempt at reliability. And that's the beautiful thing about us, that we don't believe anyone but our own experience. And this, a great thing for us, because we create our happiness independent of anyone. Just like God does it. The modern teaching of our earthly civilization is basically an education against individual enjoyment of life. Everyone wants to have their various influences on us. Rather, the agitators should be thanked. The knots of consciousness are soft, light, and gracious. No angular beliefs are needed. Let's allow happiness to be experienced by everyone, as they feel it without judgment or stamps. 433. It's true, to raise a good character in the cosmic odyssey of galaxies, civilizations often sick with selfishness, is not easy. When presenting various cultural fields, we often forget about the reward of eternal life. The Ministry of Education has the wrong assumptions, because it detracts from spiritual culture, shallowing it, even omitting it, and limited in knowledge ways to solve the difficulties of understanding existence, do not uniformly ennoble and perfect the rationale of life. To fight suffering and ignorance without the idea of eternity is pure nonsense. There is no hope in it, no grasp of the objective truth of life. 434. Our desires are the desires of God, so to speak, whatever they may be, because the gift of desires, imagination, sensitivity, absorption of impressions, does not come from ourselves, but was created by the generosity called God. A strange phenomenon, little understood. But from what it seems to me, it can become a reason for pride and hatred. At the same time, it can be a great return to reunion with lands not described in any books, and not expressed in any words, lands of eternal happiness. As if two sides of the same coin. Which side should we choose? Everyone already personally knows the answer to this for millions of years. And does it do so? Not really, because we are still suffering. 435. Someday we will go to heaven, and we will be very happy about it. In order for this to happen 100%, and not prolong our lives into thousands of years of work in planetary kolkhozes, it is necessary that we sustain always in ourselves the desire to be close to love. Perfect will never happen, but we must try. Salvation consists in nothing less than becoming love itself. So only love equipped with the colors of goodness and tolerance plays a crucial role in where we will go after death. And you can find yourself in various places in the cosmos, even on very unfriendly planets. As it happens in life, we know ourselves. Who is not good generally lands in a reformatory or prison. It is better to watch this on your own, to control your life skillfully and with lightness, especially emotions and thoughts. And after such a life, where one wants to be always good and kind, one enters heaven. It doesn't take much to get there. It is enough to be cultured and kind. Have a heart for everyone and try to understand everyone, is how Padre Pio taught me. 436. Life gives us pleasure, but also unsatisfaction. The question, why is that? A difficult answer. So little do we know what once happened to material nature that it does not meet our full expectations. Something must have happened, because our thoughts and desires always go beyond suffering and limitations. Even a life of love and harmony here on earth does not exclude problems. What could this mean? To the end, we don't know. There is no clear answer. The only thing we can do to make life more pleasant, and to make it characterized by the delight of existence, is to love and be friendly, even in difficulties and misunderstanding. This is the only way to partial peace and partial happiness. The nature of the world gets tired and does not allow one to always be happy. How then to overcome nature? With thoughts it can be done. Understand that it cannot be defeated. And this understanding is a victory for the soul. That is, acceptance and hope that someday it will be better. 437. A stream of inspired spiritual knowledge is needed to cure oneself of the hubris of self-knowledge and self-sufficiency. To be cured of the common unconquerable knowledge. Am I, a god, not knowing who we are as thinking beings, lost in theories, missing genetic links, lost in galaxies, in our own bodily organs, in brain neurons? What do we know? Nothing. Today's scientific Nobels tomorrow are already obsolete, and PhDs on the essence of life can be burned like straw. 438. Imagination, nor created art, talents, should not be a reason to get lost in your own flattery. 439. Medicine is based on what? On nature. Each drug is a selected ingredient from a plant. The nucleus of the plant ingredient surrounded by chemistry patented and delivered to the pharmacy. The money rolls in, and people continue to get sick, because no drug is hit straight on the disease, but works on the whole body, destroying what it can along the way. It's worth knowing that a modified plant given as a pill is rejected by the body as something foreign, not harmonized with the body's cells. But they won't tell you about it in the commercials anymore. And so it is with this science. Only surgery is more accomplished. The best thing is to be healthy and not take pills, because after them you will get even sicker. Prevention. Good nutrition is the key to not visiting doctors and pharmacies. But if you have to, you have to. Such is the strange path from matter to eternal spirit. Don't starve and eat well, so that you won't complain about yourself later. Padre Pio's words. And still today everything is poisoned. Air, water, food. In the Middle Ages they ate rootlets and were healthier than people drinking milk today. Padre Pio's words. The narrative that milk poisons is a fiction of pseudoscience. 440. There are too few authorities for the present times, but those from the heart, not from money manipulation and mind control. There are too few of those characterized by tolerance, knowledge of material life, and at the same time information about the spiritual immortal heart of man, enabling the comprehensive progress of civilization. Oi, there is a shortage of such. Only those whose lives testify to high sensitivity to pain, injustice and social injustice, especially financial, should be in power. 441. Spirituality, or really love, because the soul is itself a walking warm love, is the greatest opportunity for man. This is what needs to be rediscovered to be happy, whether married or single or otherwise. Spirituality is a process of balance. It enlivens our feelings and thoughts in a perfect way. It prepares us to meet the source of love. 442. Medical knowledge, chemical knowledge, physical knowledge, photons, and those other bio and sub-particles thousands of times smaller than an atom, etc. relative to the soul, are a rigid and completely foreign field. Yes, the body craves knowledge and the mind craves analysis, because the body is a bit lost in this festivity and is looking for a way to survive. But the soul doesn't care about this completely, because it knows its eternal value. But trapped in the body, it struggles and fails. Difficult are these processes of the world and the hereafter. However, there is no turning back. There are only two main directions concerning our consciousness. Either we suppress it with material, finite heavens, or we liberate it to follow the path of eternal originality. The choice is ours. But do we want to seek happiness for ourselves? You might say that the question is unfounded, because everyone wants happiness. But how it can look different, peaceful, or uneasy. Spiritual happiness is 100% peaceful because it is painted with love for others. 443. There is no complete knowledge in the human reason because knowledge is incomplete, incomprehensible to the mind. Only by being outside the mind of the body, activating the consciousness of the soul, one can know everything. The mysteries of all matter. In the meantime, we are left with only tiny discoveries and the widely reigning faith. Because nothing else remains. Let's not take offense at faith, because what can one do in the face of vast ignorance and mysteries? Believe in knowledge, wait for its triumph, discoveries that are timeless. And in fact, faith makes this possible after all, surprisingly. Faith saves, sanctifies, changes, reforms, sensitizes, activates thinking, stimulates work on oneself, updates knowledge, for now through dreams and desires. You can put it this way: when it comes to faith in knowing, you feel, but you don't know anything definitively. When the veils fall, and this is possible, faith will turn into knowledge, and everything will be public. As in the love of couples in love with each other, individuals have no secrets to each other, but only enjoy the pleasure and delight of communing with the harmony of open to divine romance happiness. 444. Wanting to gain cognition of off-world celestial civilizations, where, by the way, we come from, it is necessary to first inhibit and stop own dogmas about life in general, and open your heart and mind to others. The knowledge of the hereafter flows through a reorganization of the interior, an opening to a power that we still do not know. Acquire the knowledge of the Spirit and see that every specific area of life is governed by a cosmic law, invented by fallen angels, on whose manic intelligence we are dependent biologically and in part spiritually. And this is hidden from us. Someday we will discover everything. We will understand suffering and the cosmos. It is necessary to follow dreams and feel good. 445. We are not immediately able to apply the requirements of sacred knowledge to our personal and especially social lives. The beginnings are always difficult. What is important then is just walking with faith in the heart and awareness of the direction of education. Such an attitude multilaterally helps to look for the gaps in the mind, so that we can later fill them with virtue and goodness. Faith teaches to look at the world through the eyes of transcendence. It will interest scientifically anyone who has discovered life differently and seeks to understand it in his hidden personal understanding of concepts. 446. It is necessary to apply analytical definitions of faith and convince oneself that God does not dwell openly, personally in the material cosmos, that he is somehow hidden from aliens, humans, and other races on various inhabited planets. All this is because this cosmos is not his creation, but the creation of his children who have turned away from him. So he still stays at his place and will wait for the last angel to convert. Sometimes he allows himself to incarnate pure angels from heaven on various earths for the purpose of education. But there is so much resistance in the cosmos against God that this is not always possible. Jesus and Mary succeeded, but they did not only live on this earth, moreover, like us. They crossed the planets doing good, educating to love, and the result is still lousy because we don't forgive ourselves. We continue to fight. 447. It's worth remembering this. No one through nature, the cosmic construct, from the smallest particle of matter to stars, planets, nebulae, black holes and galaxies, can know God. It will not be able to see him with its own eyes. And when? Well, that's when. Everyone has to come to that himself. In other words, he needs to save his consciousness. To heal the cut, the wound on the soul, which billions of years ago was created in us. A good and decent doctor in this matter is Jesus. We need him, his teachings from the heart, his hope that he brought us to this village in space, Earth. He came down here voluntarily. He didn't have to at all. He did it with Mary. Together they came down voluntarily to teach love and forgiveness, and to point to the extragalactic heaven as our ultimate home. 448. In our cosmic conditions, in which there is little opportunity for knowledge, It is necessary to constantly enrich oneself with the feeling of faith in order to gain the desired knowledge. Those who necessarily want to know God must take a different path from that proposed by philosophers, theologians, priests, gurus of pseudo-spirituality, parliamentarians, presidents, monarchs of states, or common philanthropists. One cannot know God through the senses of the human body. It is possible to know Him through the senses of the soul, or the capabilities of the spiritual body. The senses of the human body hint at direction, but by themselves they cannot know God, because they are limited in the speeds of biochemical cell pulsations, and the very complex connections to the soul subunit. Yes, they can get to know the other person's body at the same levels of sensitivity, even part of their feelings and consciousness, but nothing more. Knowing God is a higher school of driving. First of all, humility and renunciation of own soul. This is the essence. Through renunciation we produce true love, and this in the cosmos is not achieved very easily. Therefore I will say, after death, from this planet of death, and oppression, few people, almost no one, goes directly to heaven. Padre Pio's words. To go to heaven, knowledge is the most important thing. But knowledge about own soul, not knowledge about quanta, the periodic table, or medical knowledge, philosophical knowledge, etc. This knowledge means almost nothing to the soul. Earthly knowledge is for the human body, for gray cells, neurons, not the heavenly body. The world of human souls is focused exclusively on the body. Hence the next life is also done in the body on different planets, depending on the needs of the material consciousness of the soul, often manipulated at death by cosmos-corrupted friends, acquaintances from that side. 449. Yes, naturally, personality delight, sexual delight, resembles heavenly happiness. It is a gateway to enter the gardens of eternal pleasure. But in the material dimension, it is unattainable. For the impermanence we experience every moment destroys every expectation. But in order to achieve what we really want, we must undertake a march towards love, towards fundamental humility. A march for knowledge based on a spiritual element. The body too is this spiritual element, but through the limitations of the material and cosmic, failed biological concept of our body, it is a bit dusty, changeable and not very clear. If a person does everything to conform in life to love, he will eventually experience God. Because of the desires of delicious experiences, we were induced by manipulated evolution to live in limited matter. And this means that the most important ingredients in man have been stratified: knowledge, impermanence, art, poetry, and delight. This must be rectified as soon as possible, to become once again an attractive fullness for all, just as God does in His merriment and playfulness of eternal existence. 450. It is generally the case, but not every person is affected equally, and at the same time that, the more a person engages in material matters, the more he loses the strength of the spirit. The most powerful instrument of life is our mind consciousness. Consciousness is essentially immaterial, and only it can bring us happiness, nothing outside of it, because after all, we must be aware of every pleasure. Otherwise it does not exist. Objects or social, political, technological involvement will not do it. At most, they will exploit the body and part of consciousness. That's why you have to breathe with two lungs in this world. Have an idea of two spaces, the material world and the spiritual world. Then it will be easier and without great stress for us to go through this life. 451. I will venture this statement. Every human being on this globe needs peace and love more than water and food. Anxiety and fear paralyze everything, especially our heart. Fear inhibits spiritual and material, economic development, so necessary for people to have housing, equipment, food, etc. As they say, not by bread alone does man live, and it is probably true. Having a lot, one can lose everything in an instant, mainly through ambition, arrogance, pride, intransigence, lack of understanding and love of others, especially those at the pinnacles of power. What determines our being? Bailiffs and docks, laws, utopian taxes, loans that are almost unpayable can destroy our lives. Then what do we get out of water and food when we don't want to live? 452. Manipulation at the level of naivete also takes place in state structures. Everything related to the essence of man, that is, to conscious pleasure and freedom, is bypassed or even banned. At the same time, preaching democracy and values. On the other hand, business advertisements, credit cards are being pushed. People are encouraged to buy super modern cars, avionics, home appliances, fancy computers, etc. Where money can be extracted from people, everything is allowed. And where there is freedom and independence, there is withdrawal, extinguishment, suppression. Caught in the clutches of loans, addiction to technocracy, sexually honored, a person sits quietly and has to be happy with his equipment. He works like an ox from morning to night to pay it all off, so he can vegetate in peace. Pure manipulation. Worst of all is the manipulation of manipulation. Those who think they rule the market and can collect payments from consumers are just as manipulated by the top-down system. It is worth realizing this and praying for a good spiritual change. 453. We should acquire the qualities of magnificent, wise, inspiring, and soft as the bodies of angels. 454. The heart is magic. He knows how to wish everyone the best. He knows how to make others happy and pleasant. The miracle of a sensitive heart. Is there anything more beloved? No, because the heart is a design of God, not of creation. God is the best at designing goodness and love, eternal life. No one has so far surpassed him in this. Will he overtake? I doubt it. There have been those who have tried to do it, and what came out of it was a quagmire of work, a constant search for energy that keeps collapsing. Disaster. God did not even cross the mind that someone would lack pleasure, happiness, and energy. If we suffer, get sick, and die, this is the result of private heavens in the cosmos. Private planets wished to establish and established, but hells rather than heavens came out of them. It's better to trust God than ourselves. 455. God never designed evolution, biological cosmos, photon cosmos, no astral or any suffering. What we see, the world, is the result of the free will that God has given to everyone. God's stress is our freedom, which He has offered us, as it turns out, at the price of His sacrifice and His children's forgetfulness of Him. In heaven, everyone remembers God, their parent mom. In space, rarely anyone. One even fights with Him for billions of years. Where does this struggle lead? 456. The power of words depends on what it carries, the potential of experiences and experiences in the consciousness of a particular soul, vision, tangibility. Such is its power of influence. Sometimes a simple word will give more enlightenment than whole philosophical treatises. And sometimes silence, as a substitute for words, can make an even greater impression. This was the case, for example, with Saint Francis of Assisi. He said to his brother, "And now we go to the village to preach God's truths." And off they went. They walk through the middle of the village, and Francis is silent, says nothing. They walked through the whole area in silence. And the brother asks, "We were supposed to preach the word of God." Francis replied, "We were just preaching." As historians recall, this village was very impressed by the person of Francis, his power and sensitivity. After that, everyone knew who Francis was, although he did not preach a single word there. Such is the power of the invisible soul. Everything is possible in a good person. 457. It is good to know about the particles of matter, because it directly affects ourselves, psychophysical bodies. And this means taking an intelligent interest in life and presenting content in a selection of objective education. Science also has its good qualities. The realization of the fact that any way of expressing belonging to the search for the meaning of life hereby promotes the requirement of moral and spiritual life for the benefit of other beings throughout the cosmos. Light from heaven goes to all those who lacked power, knowledge, and objectivity. The question, will we be willing to align ourselves in this direction, like plants to the sun, for a photo-transformation of the spirit? An hour of flashes suffering passes. Death comes, an hour of flashes and vibrations has struck. All the world's pains come into focus and dissipate the hottest souls. Songs carry flowers and rays. It's time for the grape harvest, bright star. What young life you rub the remains of the body, you which the river of oblivion reminds me of. It all honor you, sister of death. Let the atoms shatter their components. Behold your power above the whole element, and you take in the wicked and call out the saints, who shall comprehend the solemn death. Before the altar my heart is glad, unknown longing strikes suddenly, like a volcano gushes my prayer. Let my cry turn into a taste of life and pain into delight, times into infinity. O death wonderful, you who carry the streams of life into eternity, to you the honor. 458. Benevolent selflessness may or may not become an element of adulteration and spiritual limitations. To be authentically good, however, some inner rebirth is needed. Wise people are not engaged only in external activities. Although she in the standard of material life is a necessity, the most important thing is to have a good disposition and pure intentions, and the rest will become authentic in passing, even in very small things. 459. It is better to quietly continue your spiritual life, because people who are overly nosy may inappropriately judge the activities we do out of the ordinary. Although you are sincere and open, you may not necessarily be an example, even though you would like it very much. As there is inadequate knowledge, so there is inadequate judgment. You need to be able to retreat in extreme cases with your good heart, and love at a distance. Sometimes it's better that way. 460. Man's destiny is to achieve a full life of happiness. This would seem to be a trite statement. No, it is not trivial but true. There are many paths to this goal. Consequently, man takes all risks to get closer to this image. Will we succeed in transcending the veils of limitations? This will become apparent based on our desires, especially after the death of the material cells of the personal body. If we had sincere desires for pleasure, we will probably reach the palaces of eternal happiness. If we desired to remain in human homes, we will receive them back on earth, once again. The ideal of happiness depends on our high dreams and desires. How great we have them, such great comfort we will receive. Does it depend on us? Yes, generosity is waiting for us. May we be willing to reach out our hands for it. 461. What is love all about? First of all, it's a personal gift that can be shared and enjoyed without limit. Love is about tasting it, delighting in it in various forms. At any time and in any space, love is the quintessential touch of knowing delight, heavenly delight. If one desires ever-increasing pleasure, it is necessary to perfect oneself in learning about its various spiritual aspects. It is important to realize that one cannot be happy until one submits to own soul. In this regard, there is no alternative. The world of human sensations and impressions, even very positive ones, cannot replace our feelings of inner ecstasy. Only they can fill our heart with all the desired pleasure and joy we most need. Senses of happiness, they are always internal. They touch everything, experience everything, see everything, adore everything. 462. The point, however, is to be open-minded. When you feel it's time to change something in your thinking, change it. Recognize your misconceptions that lead nowhere. You will be great if you accomplish this. This will protect you from hermeticism and stubbornness. Keep your reasoning relatively benign. A difficult undertaking, but useful for you personally and others. 463. Science has enormous popularity in the world. However, if it were to be broken down into its elements, it would turn out that we understand very little of life with its help anyway, because the mystery still applies. The question is, why is there so much mystery around us? Surely some answer would be found. One has to seek and engage own spiritual heart if we have the need. Cognition is linked to happiness, and happiness is probably what everyone wants. So one has to search to solve, at least in part, the riddle of life on Earth and in the distant cosmos. But science alone will not solve it. You still need our spirit, because it is him that all this ultimately concerns. 464. You're dissecting all sorts of things, But remember that the basis of great happiness remains temporarily unknown. The physical manipulated structure of our DNA, helix, electrochemical connections, does not allow us to know the truth. The world is mastered by thought, but no one knows its essence of being. One can try to cut through the thicket of theories. It will always be at least a desire to get closer to the core of things. It is worth doing. The benefit will surely flow from it. 465. Learning about life flows through experiencing its positive qualities, such as beauty, love, and the pleasure that comes from it. Excessive philosophizing does not help. Rather, it muddles the mind and does not add creative confidence to the heart. And self-confidence is the meaning of existence. To know that I am should not be distracted by the philosophy of being, but rather by the open hope of eternal life, if anything. 466. We should have an unwavering desire to learn about anything that intrigues or interests us. It is necessary to want to have a receptive mind and heart for all cognition, while maintaining peace. Such a drive will bring us closer to rest. For the more we get to know, the sweeter life becomes. In heaven, too, all eternity is made known. The words of Padre Pio. Cognition brings us closer to the love we already know and are yet to know. Spiritual intuition points to it. Happiness is made up of different gardens of exaltation of feelings and thoughts, of different flowers and fragrances of love. 467. Motivation or hope, faith, love, and creativity is one of the most important qualities in the pursuit of personal and international prosperity. Motivation in me and in others. Together we can change a lot. Together we can change all the evil systems in the world that destroy people's time, human aspirations and goals, knocking them out of the orbit of goodness and harmonious customs. If everyone had enough money and goods, they can be without money as well, as long as there are goods. Thieves and criminals would not multiply as easily as they do now. If everyone had time and a favorite occupation, and was educated in schools where they were also taught good heart, character, or spirituality, happiness is already smiling. 468. Faith has amazing properties, not just the traditional ones. Faith laced with love, even if you don't believe in faith, it will still work. Don't believe. Believe. 469. Joy flies even over the net. As the ear receives the word, so the eye sees images. Electronics are transformed into wisdom and a sense of well-being. Is there no network in the brain faster than what flies on the internetwork? Where are the stars? How much sadness in the sky? How many afflicted eyes I look up and see nothing, hanging frozen clouds, sad on this evening. The world shrank, and as if a belt of darkness surrounded the earth, so much joy absent today. Where are my lucky stars? You shout, and nothing. 470. The ultimate owner of all existence, heaven and the material universes, is undoubtedly someone who has such a powerful power to afford it. Colloquially, we call this power God, Father, Mother, Parent, Creator, etc. A separate issue, in my opinion, is that the material cosmos was not created by his will, but rather by his tribute. He allowed his children to set up private non-beings, that is, to create cosmos and furnish them in their own way. Just as we create various utilitarian objects, houses, brooms, dishwashers, etc., the mighty God has been generous in bestowing total freedom on our souls, so that the destroying galaxies, energy-depleting stars, and the bodies of beings living in them, material, imperfect, are not the direct work of God, but the genetic engineering of his children, the angels, what once left the original heaven, going beyond the systems of the celestial systems. It should be constantly remembered that we, as beings endowed by God with consciousness and power, also belong to them. That is, to those who once came out of heaven. However, at the moment, already very tired of this reign in the cosmos, we are relegated to the level of a mortal. So something must be done about it. One thing is certain, this monarch creator, God was the first to give a hand to all those who once departed from him. Padre Pio's words. It is necessary to be able to take advantage of this now. Hence all the action with saving us. We have to save ourselves from something. From what? precisely from these failed worlds, from the inability to know and love. From suffering. 471. Those who created the material worlds beyond the original heaven meant well. This is known. They were the ones who created all the beauty and gave love to everyone as a satisfaction for a beautiful life. Although everyone possessed this from God before, this was the plan of the free angels. But then it worked out differently. The power supply eventually ran out and things got very messed up, including hatred and resentment. Today, after the great perturbations and disruption of the cosmos created by them, the only thing left is personal development, so as not to duplicate further this catastrophe of suffering. So whoever conceives to develop his conscious soul in the direction of God will adjust and harmonize his life according to the original principles, coming from heaven and not from the civilization of space scientists from genetics, gravity, photons, quanta, etc. We receive joy and love, partial knowledge and hope for free, so we have something to start with. Ultimately, we must escape from the cosmos limited by suffering to the primordial heaven. There is no other alternative. No one wants to be annihilated. 472. Thinking is not the essence of heaven and life in the photomaterial cosmos, but it is an important element for making attractions. 473. Ignorance divides, knowledge from heaven unites everyone in a perfect individual. In heaven everyone is different, the individual, freedom, cognition, palaces of happiness, each being has its own palaces, journeys. In heaven nothing is needed, nothing is required, only willed. Padre Pio's words. 474. The aliens eventually shattered the divine order. This happened in all material worlds, and they created the need to be free in scientific evil. They broke away from God, playing their invented role. They have decomposed into component parts and no longer know how to use spiritual gifts. All that is left to them is the mundane science, pursued and acquired laboriously in schools and universities throughout the universe. As a result of freedom, they have strengthened their position of unbelief, rebellion against nobility. Pride, hatred, intolerance, struggle for material, intellectual, even emotional goods, struggle for women, for men, jealousy of pleasure, became stronger. And spiritual progress has become a virtually unconscious process already. We do not take up the spiritual life. Rather, we count on cleverness and intellectual imaginations. This will not prevent the spread of evil in the world. What should be done in such a case? It should be reversed as soon as possible and brought back to the way it was in the beginning. Love must once again conquer the hearts of all and embrace all departments of life. It should be so that the whole society learns the culture of spirituality and the goal to which it should quietly move towards. Then the situation will quickly improve. Not only in Poland, everywhere. 475. People will believe politicians when they are honest and organize the economy in such a way as to ensure prosperity for all. They will believe them when, where there is hatred, they introduce love, and where there is sadness and quarrel, they introduce peace and order. This is the kind of politicians we need right away. 476. The more a soul grows in God, the less it feels Him at a certain stage. But it is necessary not to worry, because this is how God leads souls to Himself. Inexperienced people think to themselves that God has abandoned them because of the mistakes they have made. Nothing could be further from the truth. God simply pulls the soul to a higher level of understanding, so He unleashes it to use the human way of thinking. He introduces dryness into it for purification. On the one hand, the soul feels devastated because it seems to be drifting further and further away from God. But on the other hand, it remains aware that nevertheless everything proves that it loves Him. She becomes better and better, more zealous, more peaceful, and loves others more and more. And this is the only thing that keeps her alive. This state is temporary. Then it explodes all over again, with even greater force. And there is not a cell or neuron, not a single thought or sense that is not consciously engaged in union with love. 477. Taking away people's freedom at the level of self-determination and creative imagination always results in manipulation. Tight economic structures, inhumane laws, regulations beyond measure, unfavorable contracts with banks, companies for many years. Caught in the snare of the possessive economy, a person becomes a tool and a victim in the hands of politicians and power holders. An ideal arrangement for power. Everything basic man is taken away, which means freedom and liberty at the level of the soul, free choices. The law is the law, but where are the heartfelt needs of man? Why so many disparities even in people's wallets? Perhaps these disparities should be started so that there are not so many poor and so many rich for our earthly conditions. At least some justice. 478. It is necessary to not be fettered by dogmatism or the same crazy modernism. It is necessary to fight for own, not to be fooled either by apparent spirituality or by lawyers or economists. They do not have love's consent to such things. The false power of power and money cannot cover our area of aspiration and freedom. The primacy of spirit over matter must be insisted upon. Our personal system must come first. No one should look into our pot what kind of soup we want to cook. Our business, our tastes and colors. Imposing an ideology, any ideology, is disorderly and disruptive to intellectual and inner life. Learning can be done by anyone alone. The school of life concerns the individual, consciousness, and no one has the right to interfere in it. Unless fundamental rights are transgressed, security, peace, then yes. 479. Proper development of the human person does not lead to degeneration. These deviations are created by lack of knowledge, courage of feelings, science, money, lack of education of the heart, openness to otherness, and lack of a set goal to which a person should always go. And this can also be a heavenly goal, a happy eternal life. 480. It turns out that the biggest enemy of dreams is resignation, pessimism, lack of exploration of spiritual spaces, lack of love and its colorful adventures in the realm of concrete imagination of spirit and body. And important, financial inability. If I were a rich man, why is God happy? Because he has dreams and is a huge rich man. He does not lack anything. It is enough to imitate him in this. Well, it is known, difficult. Thanks to dreams we regain freedom and break the draconian political and economic systems in the world. Everything starts with dreams and motivation, and then there is an approach to reality. Many in this action even suffered great burdens, annoyances, to enable us to realize good desires. Let's not squander these important opportunities for us, developed also by others, madmen of pure progress. It would be wrong to return to the old days, and once again allow ourselves to be enslaved, to kill in ourselves the initiative, freedom, and dreams of prosperity. A wonderful, prosperous life. Our dreams must reach beyond the earth, the galaxies, all the way to the hereafter. We need to dream very prospectively and holistic, heavenly. 481. In fact, everyone should become conscious bearers of the treasure, whose name is all knowledge and all feeling. In this way, good morals will develop and society will live like a dreamland. The Constitution must not be based on rigid laws, which often lead the state to extreme irresponsibility, hounding the law by force. The Constitution, like any law, should have something of softness, flexibility, something of mercy, because that's what man is. Soft as butter. All you have to do is tell him that you love him and forgive him. He softens immediately. We don't like calculating or fierceness. By nature, the heart, the soul are good and soft. The law should have similar qualities. Killing animals, destroying nature, poisoning the environment, capital punishment, these are still antediluvian laws. The heart is supposed to give birth to and protect spiritual and cosmic beauty, so that it can one day meet beauty and nature perfect, eternal. 482. We must become clever. Because let's remember, evil under the guise of goodness in its own way knows how to love. It uses culture, love, to manipulate. Evil is not just the dark side of power. Oh no, it is in large part in positive power. As in man, in which there is both good and some evil. Evil has its glow and splendor, and precisely in this pomp, it must not be fooled. In positivity, it is the hardest to track. Social love, charity, harmony, and bliss of life, remember, can be in part insincere and inauthentic. Not only anxiety, depression, neurosis, wars are the work of evil. Ideologies and insincere love alike. 483. To successfully repel evil, it is necessary to paint own life so that the sensitivity of the soul comes to the fore. Then the painting will be admired by all. It will soothe and bring a taste of beauty. And evil will withdraw itself from the fairy tale, as it will not fit into it. 484. There is a strange law in the material worlds that makes us ashamed to speak or even think about eternal happiness. A strange official prohibition, avoidance, wriggling out of the scope of belief in the heavenly worlds. For this strange purpose, too, our brains are designed not to think about the spirit. An interesting correlation. Who cared enough to limit our inquiry into the revelations of life? The very law of nature puts this muzzle on everyone, putting us in front of beauty and at the same time unbelievable mysteries and suffering. 485. The material heavens are collapsing one by one. Supernova explosions inform us of this, and we sit in them temporarily, somewhat lost and longing for something better, more original. Our longings and desires, that is, the heart, tell us the most. Let's follow it, and the cosmos will become a temporary experience for us, something we never wanted, and yet it happened. It is often the case that someone decides for us, and we only smile and suffer. Like the suffering of Jesus, a pure angel from heaven, who didn't need life on earth at all. 486. The source of the light is far away from us, yet we walk in this light, move around, and see other people through it. This is also the case between us and the deity. He is far from us, but at the same time we walk in him and move thanks to the omnipresent unknown force emanating from him. Although dishonest angels exploit his atoms and remake them into their own, finite. 487. God, through the angels' created nature, partially failed, speaks to us directly through it, but he himself dwells in a light that is inaccessible, as a man of ancient times states. 488. If someone says that material nature is perfect, he is admitting that he has not yet seen the perfect nature that is beyond the cause of the universe. Or he's forgotten what he once saw. 489. If we conduct our scientific deliberations well, making all sorts of comparisons, we will find that nature itself will give us a lot of knowledge about transcendence. However, no one completes such knowledge, at least it is not done in common social circles, which unfortunately impoverishes people in knowledge and happiness a lot. On the other hand, another conceptual thinking is launched, secular, where about higher, happier worlds, not a word. This is what the false social issue of the meaning of life is all about. 490. Happiness is the maker of everything, so it is necessary to start seriously believing in what desires tell us. All power and knowledge on any subject is contained in the source of pleasure. For without pleasure, life does not make the slightest sense. Without pleasure, even knowledge you are unable to acquire. Curiosity, learning, is also pleasure. Whoever has visions of happiness and strives towards it will achieve everything, including love life. On the human level and on the heavenly level. 491. A spiritual person knows more about life than a psychologist or other scientist. She knows human misery, despair, and joy beyond description. She has learned, through her own searching experience of life, how to win against evil with the help of the rays of love. 492. When you admire, adore, when you feel peace, beauty, and heartfelt emotion, and it feels so good that it can't get any better, think then still of God. You will find that God is the essence of love, the bridegroom and the bride, that he is your best, loving parent, by whom you can do everything. 493. The fact that we can think, feel, enjoy, and taste pleasure, all of this is a benevolent and sincere smile in our direction. No pleasure is the result of our work. It is a delightful function of the soul, which we all received for free as a gift. But along the cosmic way, a few strange things happened, and not everyone can enjoy it anymore without hurting others. However, this can be overcome with even more love. 494. Jesus passed through the earth doing good, but he was not only on our earth, he was on many earths. To preach love, reconciliation, and to say that God first gave a hand of agreement to all aliens, former great angels. And to us on earth he preached the same. He wanted to say that we are great angels like him, not humans, which we were effectively told. We became human beings from an accidental, and this process needs to be reversed. This is what Jesus' help is all about, so that we understand this, and through understanding we will save our souls. 495. It doesn't matter what path you take, whether good or bad, according to the opinions of others. What matters is that you go in the direction you feel internally drawn to. Morality is individual. And what path did Jesus take, spending a lot of time with tax collectors and prostitutes? When did he sit down, talk and drink with them? He was called a drunkard and a glutton. What was the secret way to heaven? The most beautiful. The angel Jesus approached his old friends, also angels, but fallen because of the cosmos. He wanted to make them realize through friendship and being with them that there was a chance for them of true love, pleasure, and eternal life. 496. Briefly and succinctly, we have been to heaven. We have left heaven. We are returning to heaven. This is all my knowledge. 497. Life is a dance. All you need to do is dance and love. Then you don't need any additional prayer, focusing, escaping into formlessness. All life is a form both in heaven and on earth. When you lose yourself in such a dance, you won't even notice that you have died, because not surprised, you continue to play with the dance. The meaning of life is to derive pleasure from it, because and what do our eyes, touch, hearing, smell, and taste do? Only 24 hours a day are occupied with just that. And they only draw and give at the same time, or maybe they give more than they draw. Unwittingly, through the body, we try to reach the center of the soul, and it does nothing else either. It draws pleasure endlessly from the corners of all of heaven. 498. Even holiness is of no use to anyone. It's still ego, let alone knowledge. That's why a crazy person said a cool thing. Love surpasses all knowledge. It is no longer necessary to write about the conclusions here. The civilization of the intellect so far has not come up with it. And this is such a simple and pleasant experience. From the borderline of the unpleasantness of the world and the remembrance of the divine emotion of existence. 499. The sharper your view of reality, the softer you perceive it. Why? Because your eyes fall in love with the love they saw differently than usual. In fact, they're so in love that they've become blinded to this world, looking out with the hope of divine romance. 500. Abandon knowledge and whatever you can, and you will see that even the power of consciousness itself will kneel before love. 501. In fact, everything created by the angels is without much point. The purpose is tragic. Everything ends in suffering and death throughout nature, where one must eat the other physically and mentally. The creation in which we participate is clearly not the work of a perfect God. The angels, after coming out of heaven, already felt when they created universes that something would be wrong. But they persisted in their scientific concepts of a material heaven. Just like politicians, philosophers, scientists today, in their foolish, short-sighted beliefs. 502. Man is an angel, but crippled by material knowledge. Until he liberates himself from it, he will bleed. The scratch on the scrolls of the soul is powerful. Satan and his alien friends know this, because they all contributed to it a very long time ago, including us, as aliens outside heaven. But the moment will come when they, too, will free themselves from the power of light and the codes of psycho-material life. Salvation applies to all galaxies. 503. The rebellious angels, after coming out of heaven, that is us, wanted paradise, and what came out was actually hell. They forced a violent transformation of matter to keep the cosmos alive. They found no other way to perpetual motion. They generated pseudo-energy, which is failing. Anyway, it's not much fun. Bodies age, brains wear out, amnesia, etc. How much alcohol do you have to drink to loosen up? How many parties do you have to organize to forget the difficulties and suffering? How much fast driving to skip the sad time? One can say that this whole cosmos with its civilizations is very fragile. I agree with the greatest philosopher of this planet, Jesus. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and don't worry too much about the rest. 504. To love without boundaries, not to envy, not to feel disadvantaged in love, is the miracle of heavenly love. On earth, it is often the other way around, escaping into the world of uncomfortable forms, imprisoning bodies and feelings. But this too can be swept away by the fervor of the search. In people who have lost knowledge and clarity of feelings, it is not easy to understand the hardship of life associated with this. Everyone generally resents love, feelings, gestures, jealousy resulting from ignorance. This kind of bifurcation hurts a lot. And on the other hand, we want universal love and cuddle up to beauty, to nice feelings from everyone. Universality is lumped together with the individual. We can't live without universality, because love embraces the individual and everything around it at the same time. If someone says, "I'm in love with you," he actually embraces the whole world with his feelings, and at the same time, the beloved person. Such is love. In heaven, everyone loves each other equally. It is a game of admiration and adoration. There is no envy typical of people there. Shared beauty is fused with personal beauty and experience. 505. The soul consciousness and its ability to enjoy creativity is our greatest friend in life. It always knows what we need most. That's why the soul tries to protect us from the concept of purely material thinking, so that we don't get attached to something that passes away and dies. The soul is our greatest love of life. It gives only happiness and fun. This is what it was created for. It has no seriousness in it. On the contrary, it is light and joyful. She can identify with the happiness of others, establishing mutual love, friendship, camaraderie. She always participates in various versions of pleasure-giving. Therefore, getting entangled in intellectual materialism is not good for the soul. The soul constantly seeks higher sensations of inner pleasures. Money for her does not matter. She gives for free and feels happiness for free, regardless of the beauty of her body and surroundings. She is like a fragrant flower, which she smells with pleasure and effortlessly. Yes, the senses help. They are stimuli that ignite the soul. Every twitch of the senses, hearing, sight, touch, taste, smell penetrates the soul, and it converts this into pleasure. But because it currently relies on the body with weak senses that do not translate into the needs of the soul, we are easily discouraged. We stop at the senses of the present body. That is, we don't dream of a body that is beautiful, perfect, and magnificent in its surroundings. And all this is real in the princely fairy tale called heaven eternal. On earth, we are left with only substitutes for these delights, which all the time inspire us to higher experiences. 506. As long as our efforts in society are focused solely on material science, on economics and the economy, society will derail sooner or later. Freedom will destroy everything. This is certain. There have already been so many civilizations on earth, even higher than ours, and no trace of them remains. And the reason was free materialism without high spiritual culture. The specialty of a materialistically educated society is the fact that this society is delicious and pugnacious, eager for progress and its own strength. It is intolerant and cold. Democracy for its own use, mainly for the elite. The rest pilloried by the police. This can be seen in every civilized country. And these horrors do not end. And it would be enough to add some love and spirit to science and progress. Everything would change. Materialism then would not threaten anyone. After all, it is needed so that one can still live here somehow for the time being. Wish fulfilled. As the wind picks up speed, so violently dances a thought caught in longing. Every detail of this game has its craziness high as the birthday of truth since the Iron Age. The intended heartfelt kindness, illuminated by the luminous cheek of its fathom, swirled a dimension of mystery into the pure heart to quietly transform the long-distracted world. And you don't know when you enter by the shores of rivers sparkling with friendship into areas of age-old anointing where, like wonderful hair, the unfolded sounds of true harmony of happiness kiss you. On your palms you perceive engraved immortality, flowing safe lands on which, walking in fiery amazement, you no longer know longing, but wish fulfilled. 507. The more you have a gentle and open mind, the more sweet knowledge flows to you. That's why there are differences between holy mystics in their interpretation of life. One mystic writes works like this, the next writes other works, and a third mystic writes works yet others. Precisely because the more open mind and heart, the greater the knowledge of all things. Heaven means something different to everyone. Padre Pio's words. 508. You don't need to know everything. It is enough that you feel and guess that your intuition causes you, and that you would like to know. No one usually says they don't want to know something. And if the knowledge flows for free, he would like to make the most of it. And it's already a huge amount of knowledge that you crave it. Actually, complete knowledge is available, but for now in the potential of conjecture, through hope and openness of the soul. Knowledge is the greatest treasure for consciousness besides love, which is always at the very top. 509. Religions are mostly persecution. Secularism is aggression. Power is the destruction of freedom. Opposition. What is missing so that all of this is not there? There is only one thing missing from these three: love. There is a need for a universal, good, soft, forgiving, merciful, cultural love. One that has consideration for the highest values we can imagine. This kind of thinking is the norm, and there is no need to be ashamed of it when we talk about love. 510. So in purely human terms, it turns out that without the state and without religion, without secularism, love, life, and death exist. So there is a non-religious and non-ideological hope. Everyone wonders about life, regardless of the number of religions and philosophical orientations. Everyone believes silently that they will live on after the death of the body. One does not need religion or philosophy to believe this, but simple analysis, logic, the intelligence of a child's smile, a clean slate of being, is enough. God is beyond views and religions. 511. Since those who die and go to better worlds remember us, it may be worth praying to ask the supreme power of life to help us in the difficult circumstances of our lives in the unoriginal cosmos. They have experienced it and are beyond it. Pray to survive illness and death without complaining too much. 512. Sorting people by opinion, politics, gravity, agriculture, and any other is a feature of physical and spiritual life in our conditions. We cannot avoid it. Jesus also used it when he commented on the Jews. You are whitened graves, a tribe of vipers. 513. The truth is lied, untrue, and still hidden on a daily basis. To break through this screen of hubris and manipulation is hard. It is accompanied by great negativity of the intellect, and if necessary, even physical resistance. Jesus managed, although sometimes he had to flee lest they kill him. He offered love, integrity, and justice. He did not mix good with evil, as certain factions of newspapers and their leftist supporters do. He said rather strong words for such cases. Here they are. Do not think that I came to bring peace to earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to divide a son from his father, a daughter from her mother, a daughter-in-law from her mother-in-law. A true man does not lie. He is straightforward and honest, open and unambiguous. Jesus was like that. He knew that different souls are born in families, some better, others still without a ray of truth, collaborating with lies and crime. With these words, he cleared up the situation. He separated, sorted, so that the good ones would not be led back down the wrong path. It is better to quarrel and divide than to give in to influence and corrupt from within. 514. Social structures as well as political forms should not delineate the shape of truth, for truth is non-social and non-political, but individual. No one on earth has yet succeeded in treating people as culturally as Christ did with his equal love for all. The products of human thought produce many sparks of inspiration, but still no one has managed to encapsulate everything into some single whole, into some real system. So far, no political power, no scientific force has developed such a band of freedom and democracy that everyone could be satisfied with. No branches of technology have been found that would free people from the overload of life. Equality before all, equality before the law, equality in affluence and happiness, and equality before freedom are still burning problems to be solved in all social environments and in individual state systems. Many roads. Among the many roads, you found one direction. You were pushed by the words in which longing was a prayer. You deviated from the solutions, felt the flaws in the design, but tried anew the value of this raw material. You pushed away the laments again. Your eyes darted for a smile. You have rejected the uncertain rationale. For so many departures, you have finally found that direction. The alien gods fell asleep underground and dust was left behind. The memory of them is getting shallower and shallower. In front of your house, a giant oak stands. Today you sat with your love under his shadow. You have decorated the table richly. You have found the path of eternal joy. And you are no longer alone among these shadows. 515. Wanting to be an expression of divinity or ideals in this world, it is necessary to immediately set an example of kindness. Words alone are not enough. You still need to smile at everyone, be kind and cordial to everyone, regardless of views or political options. Yes, ideally there should be no politics at all, but that is another matter. Views are not needed either, because what do you think they serve? To argue. So what if we are right? For the sake of being right, we won't persecute each other after all. Only goodness and love is beyond views, non-denominational and apolitical. Maybe someday we will come to that. It would also be a dream of Jesus. Personally, everyone can be such right now. With systems and regimes, more time is needed because it involves the whole collectivity and existence according to norms. And not everyone shines with love yet. If power is characterized by shadows of goodness, falsehood appears. That is politics, which most often deceives love, following its path unenlightened by compassion. 516. Physical freedom means little without understanding what love is. Therefore, even democracy based on inadequate attitudes will not change much in social life. Everything will be the same, and after a time when freedom defeats ethics, there will be a complete disappearance of love. Yes, freedom will remain, but for the misery of man. Democrats, too, have prisons in which they imprison their opponents, even greater democrats. Padre Pio's words. Peace and balance, therefore, lies in avoiding ego motives. Only effects and causes, derived from noble love, will allow democracy and monarchy to follow the right path to peace and heavenly prosperity. 517. If mankind would stop acting from selfish motives even for one day, there would not be a single war or human harm on that day. Where there is no love, there are a lot of problems, unrest and harm. There is only one thing left, to start loving without analysis. 518. If things are to get better, the source of life must be found. To break away from the roots of hopelessness, from culture without compassion, from goodness without love, from expectations without touch, from faith without knowing oneself. 519. The most important role in the soul is played by lurid and mysterious feelings, and hot brought out from the imagination. They build a prism through which it is easier to see everything worth touching, so that with this you can soar into unknown lands of contentment and happiness, unlimited by science, rule, guidance, like